Hello, and welcome back to From a Head Teacher's Perspective with me, Paul Urry. Excellent teachers know that strong teaching begins with understanding how learning actually happens. Without a grasp of memory, attention, and schema, even well-intentioned lessons can become performative, busy, colourful, energetic, but shallow. When teachers understand the science of learning, their explanations become clearer, their tasks more purposeful, and their decisions more precise. They teach not just for today's performance, but for tomorrow's recall. This unit sets out the core scientific principles that excellent teachers use to secure deep, lasting learning. 1. Learning begins with attention. Attention is the gateway to learning. Nothing can be learned until it has first been attended to. Cognitive research is clear. Pupils do not learn what teachers say. They learn what they think about. And attention is the mechanism that directs thinking. Excellent teachers create conditions where attention is both captured and protected. They use clear cues, intentional routines, and simple transitions to remove unnecessary distractions. They avoid cognitive clutter, busy slides, excessive talk, irrelevant imagery, because every unnecessary detail competes with learning. Attention is limited, fragile, and selective. Great teachers respect its limits by giving pupils a manageable focus at each stage of the lesson. They narrate what matters, highlight what to ignore, and guide pupils towards the thinking that truly supports learning. When attention is directed deliberately, pupils engage with the right ideas at the right time, and learning becomes possible. 2. Working memory, limited but essential. Working memory is where conscious thinking happens, and it is remarkably limited. Pupils can only process a small number of items at once, and information held in working memory fades quickly unless it is rehearsed, connected, or scaffolded. Because of this, excellent teachers design instruction that supports working memory rather than overwhelms it. They break our explanations into small, meaningful steps. They check understanding frequently. They use worked examples to reduce unnecessary load. They avoid mixing essential with non-essential detail. They sequence ideas so pupils can hold them mentally, and they reduce extraneous cognitive load from displays, resources, and tasks. These choices are not about making learning easier. They are about making learning possible. When working memory is overloaded, comprehension collapses. Pupils may appear busy, compliant, or engaged, but the knowledge will not move into long-term memory. Protecting working memory is therefore an act of high expectations. It ensures pupils can think deeply without being overwhelmed. 3. Long-term memory and schema. The real goal of teaching is long-term memory, because that's where it's stored. If learning has not changed long-term memory, learning has not occurred. Everything pupils understand, remember, or use in new contexts comes from long-term memory. Excellent teachers design teaching so knowledge is more likely to be retained over time. They understand that long-term memory strengthens when information is retrieved, connected, spaced, applied, rehearsed, integrated into schema. A schema is a mental structure that organizes knowledge. Pupils do not simply learn isolated facts, they build networks of meaning. Schema make thinking faster, reduce load on working memory, and provide the foundation for new learning. Great teachers build schema deliberately. They connect today's learning to yesterday's ideas. They show patterns, relationships, and structures. They revisit core concepts frequently. They help pupils organize knowledge so that learning becomes cumulative rather than fragmented. This is what distinguishes teaching that merely covers content from teaching that builds understanding. 4. Retrieval and the power of remembering. Retrieval, the act of pulling information from memory, is one of the most powerful tools in the science of learning. Research shows that recalling information strengthens memory more effectively than simply rereading or rewatching it. Excellent teachers use retrieval not as a test, but as a learning strategy. They embed short, frequent opportunities for pupils to recall prior knowledge. Daily reviews, flashback questions, low-stake quizzes, paired verbal retrieval, mini whiteboard responses, concept mapping, and vocabulary recall. This strengthens long-term memory and reveals gaps that need reteaching. Retrieval does not require elaborate resources. It requires consistency and intention. 5. Pupils learn what they think about. A central principle in the science of learning is that pupils remember whatever they spend time thinking about. If they think about the decoration of a poster, they will remember the decoration. If they think about copying, they will learn copying. If they think about the narrative rather than the concept, they will recall the story, but not the idea. Excellent teachers, therefore, curate activities that direct thinking towards the core idea. They ask, what exactly will pupils be thinking about during this task? If the thinking does not match the learning goal, they change the task. This principle challenges teachers to audit their practice. Activities must serve thinking, not the other way round. Using this unit as a reference, return to these questions whenever planning, explaining, modelling, or reflecting. What precisely do you want pupils to think about? Does this explanation respect the limits of working memory? Where will you deliberately direct attention, and what will you minimize? How will pupils retrieve what they already know? What schema are you trying to build over time, and how does today's lesson strengthen it? Does every task support thinking about the right idea? How will you know learning has been secured, not just performed? When teachers design lessons guided by these questions, learning becomes deeper, more durable, and more coherent. Some reflection prompts for excellent teachers. Think. Which aspect of the science of learning, attention, working memory, or schema, has the greatest impact on your current teaching? Plan. Identify one deliberate change you will make tomorrow to protect attention, reduce working memory load, or strengthen schema building. Act. Implement it. Observe the difference and reflect on what changed, both in pupil thinking and in the clarity of learning. Please do use the accompanying self-study workbook to capture your reflections, respond to the prompts, and identify one or two focused actions to take forward. Over time, these small, deliberate reflections build stronger practice, clearer intent, and a more confident professional identity. Thank you. And until next time, goodbye.